have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
I will say, by the way, welcome Kyle Tigey back to a State of the Wolves Monday here on Flagrant Howls. We got the sports dad, Judd. We got our producer extraordinaire, Declan. After what happened on Thursday in Toronto, I consider that a great moral victory at Boston to almost win that game.
Don't take away the steam of my hot Wolves takes off that piece of crap reaction.
Yeah, we have a lot to get to here from over the weekend here. But first, a shout out to Bricksworth, a couple blocks away from Target Center. I got my little Bricksworth crew neck here. Look at this.
It's Wolves themed.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Wolves colored.
Nicely themed. Yeah, it's perfect for both home and away games. For home games, obviously, steps away from Target Center. You can show up with your friends, family, eat, drink, be merry before, after games. And then they're also just showing the games too. Bricksworth in the North Loop. There's also a location in Burnsville, the OG location. Come drink the signature Nas Reed Hazy IPA. Ooh. And just enjoy a good beverage and a snack. Some of the best dry rub wings and Detroit-style pizza that you're ever going to sink your teeth into. And just super close to Target Center. Cheaper parking options as well. So stop by Bricksworth in the North Loop. We appreciate them here for the 2024-25 Flagrant Howls season. Kyle, what's going on? Can we get a quick Vikings take from you before we get into State of the Wolves?
Like I said before we hit record, I watch way too much football. I mean, Sundays I literally shout it to my wife. Just it's all football all day. Saturdays you get a little football too. It's really almost impossible to be 9-2. It's not pretty. It's ugly. You nitpick all this stuff, all 22. But watch some of these other teams. This is like a Timberwolves take and a Vikings take. Watch other teams and what they're going through. And realize some days it's just nice to win the game, no matter how you win it. So 9-2, headed towards another very, very successful season under a very great leadership.
Yeah, get that
Stop
flag.
That. I'm looking up something.
The flag.
Too much praise. Too much praise. My arms are very tired from waving that flag for 2 consecutive days, Kyle.
That line was very taxing on Judd's labrums for sure. So, so Dex is going to lead us through the framework of State of the Wolves Monday here through our category. So, Dex, you take it away.
All right, here's the overview of your Timber Pups. 8-8 on the season. They are 8-8 through 16 games. They are 11th in the Western Conference. They are 4 games out of the top spot. They are 9th in offensive rating. They're 14th in defensive rating. According to ESPN, they're at a 38.6% chance to make the playoffs. On Basketball Reference, they're at a 27% chance to make the playoffs. So at one point, I believe Basketball Reference was more bullish than ESPN, and now it's flipped. ESPN is still saying a little less odds than a coin flip to make the playoffs, and Basketball Reference has put them down all the way to 27%. 0.4%, though, chance to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy, according to ESPN. 0.1% from Basketball Reference. And, of course, if the playoffs started today, being the 11th seed, Wolves wouldn't even be in the playoffs, man. So through 16 games here, Wolves at 500 and outside the playoff field. We'll start with a vibe check. Judd, do you want to lead us with a Wolves vibe check here through an 8-8 start through the first 16 games?
Sure. Yeah. Let me start us off. Wolves vibes are incredibly disappointing. So, all right, you get off to a rocky start in part because you've got new guys. This happens, okay? So I was willing to go along with this.
You were Mr. Patient a week ago. Are you?
But I lose my patience.
Are we done with that?
I've lost all patience. Thursday night in Toronto, Julius Randle plays keep away from Gobert. Gobert pouts and purposely gets, there's no question about it, a 3-second call to prove a point. Ant starts to yell at Gobert, which, by the way, I totally get that. And then post-game, oh, God, this hurts so much. So post-game, Julius Randle is in a locker room with no one from the market there, aside from FanDuel people who, of course, cover the team. And Julius is clearly ready to go off. Clearly ready. he's being asked innocuous questions and saying things like, we need to be more professional. Like, this is where you say, so when you didn't throw the ball to Rudy, Julius, what happened there? But no one said that. So then we get our story straight for 2 days. So when the media shows up, the local beat people show up in Boston, it's like, brothers fight, families fight. And then yesterday, they lose to Boston, and a team that was in the Western Conference Finals last year, including Ant, tells us, well, at least we tried hard. That's what he said. He said, at least we tried. I mean, that was the message he sent. Everybody, grow the hell up. Grow up.
Can I read you the quotes real quick? Since we might as well just. Here's the quotes from before the Boston game. And I'm actually way more fine with these quotes than Judd is. Judd head just popped off his body here. But so this is from Gobert. Like I told the guys, as someone who is really big on leading by example, my reaction in the fourth quarter was a bad example, Gobert said. This is from the Star Tribune. I let my emotions, my frustration get the best of me. That's not who I am. I was sorry for that. I know these guys know me. I know who I am. They know everything I do is for my teammates. So when I have one of those moments, we know it's just a moment. For his part, Randall said there was no beef between him and Gobert. Quote from Randall, Rudy's been great. I've had no problem with Rudy. He's been great communicating. I feel like Rudy is a great teammate. He brings a lot to our team, and we need Rudy. I've been to Rudy's house. There's no beef or any animosity. It's basketball, and things happen. And there's some more stuff in here. But that's essentially, they all acknowledged, oh, yeah, what you saw on Thursday, what you thought you saw was what happened. It was a pissing match between
But did you see
teammates.
The quotes today from Boston, from Ant last night?
Yeah. Yes. That's part of my least. Let me get to my vibe check. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to cut in line here.
Okay.
Playing hard is the way he phrased it. He said, someone asked, hey, what's the key? Like, why did you guys look like you had some more juice maybe in the second half against Boston? He essentially said, we played hard, and that's the difference. And my Wolves vibe check is Wolves vibes are apparently lazy through the first month. Like, why is playing hard or not even a discussion? I thought we were kind of past that. You had the number one ranked defense in the NBA last year, in part because you played hard every single night. So I don't love that playing hard or not is a question for this team. Kyle, your Wolves vibe check.
I want to get back to what Judd was talking about, but when you guys do this every Monday, I always think of it like when Wilbon and Kornheiser do like that one word thing on PTI. So the Wolves vibes are unconsummated, was the word I used for this. Go look it up. Not going to get into details, but it's just not a team that really loves each other right now. It's not a team that vibes. There's not a lot of chemistry, again, unconsummated, and it kind of showed on Thursday, and I'm glad it showed on Thursday because it kind of probably had been bubbling behind the scenes a little bit. That type of stuff, that type of action. I mean, you had guys that literally chose selfish egos over winning. Like, I said this to Dane on Friday, but when Rudy Gobert punched Kyle Anderson, that was during a timeout, and you can kind of regroup a little bit and figure it out. This happened essentially during the game, and I thought it was way more drastic than the punch because it actually affected the outcome of the game. Rudy had the 3-second, then he fouled Scotty Barnes, and they come down and turn it over. So that lost them the game at 95-95. Do you want to go right into my least favorite thing? Because I want to follow up on what Judd said.
I mean, I don't think we should stop you at this point. Go.
I don't get to do these much with Judd, and Judd's been doing this a long time, so I just want to kick it back to him. In the 8 or 9 years I've been doing this, I have become there's not a lot of people that cover the Timberwolves. And I've become friends with a lot of them, and they're all great people. So this is nothing on them, but it is on the state of the industry. And I know I can't swear on this, but it is absolutely bleeping embarrassing that there was no one covering the game in Toronto. That will go down. I don't care what happens else. That'll go down as the biggest story of the season, and you have no one there to ask the questions. It was worse than it's being reported. It was steamy, to Judd's point. There were conversations that were had, and they got to essentially cover it all up and be like, actually, it's all fine. That was terrible. And it's not Chris Hines' fault because the Star Tribune has a limited budget, and he has to literally pick which games he goes to. It's not Dane Moore's fault because he didn't have a travel budget for 41 games. But the fact that you have a team now that's a contender and is raising ticket prices and trying to sell all this merch and maybe build a new stadium and you don't have anyone there to ask a question after the biggest game of the season, that is so embarrassing. And if you are a struggling newspaper or you're a struggling media company and you're trying to get more coverage and eyeballs, maybe send people to the events because that's ridiculous.
Amen. Yeah.
Joe's gonna start
Totally.
crying.
It's crazy.
Joy.
No, you're exactly right. And let's then call a spade a spade. The Star Tribune has to be there.
Has to be there. And again, I just
You're
want people to know
owned
this.
by Glenn Taylor.
Chris Hine has a budget,
Yeah.
and he has to literally himself. He doesn't have an assistant. He has to figure out how do I make this all work. So when he comes out to Portland, he has a little friend out here that can drive him around and save some money so he can go to other games. He did not have enough in his budget to go to Toronto, which will now, in the DVD of this season, go down as the biggest moment of the season, and no one knows what happened. No one.
And Julius, in the video that, by the way, the Timberwolves deemed okay to stream, was pissed off. So can you imagine if a impartial person had gone in and said, what happened there? Which he was never asked, or at least it didn't make the stream. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And look, guys like Dane do great work, and the fact that guys like Dane travel at all is awesome, but it should not be expected. And yeah, this is not a referendum on Chris Hine, but this is a referendum on the Minnesota Star Tribune.
Yeah, it's no longer just the Star Tribune.
Yeah.
It is the Minnesota Star Tribune.
And you can't go to every game played by a team that was in the Western Conference Finals. Excuse me? So yeah, I love your point. It's a great point. And that was truly an opportunity lost, because by the time you get to Boston, it's like the crime is done. The blood has been washed away, right? Like the crime scene is contaminated.
Yeah.
It's gone. So you're never going to know exactly what the responses would have been at the critical moment when you should have.
But you guys all work in media. Can you imagine the views, the listens of? I know from doing Dane's pod on Friday, that thing did crazy numbers because everyone woke up Friday and was like, "What the hell happened last night?"
Yep.
Our pets' heads are falling off, and the article in the Star Tribune was pretty much just like, "Here's the box score. They lost by 5." It's like, oh my God, you had an opportunity here to dominate a Friday news segment with this embarrassing act on the court. So I don't know. Again, this is not a Chris Hine thing. Chris Hine wants to be there. He just doesn't have it. He can't make all 41 right now. And it's like, wait, the paper is owned by the guy who's about to cash in on $2 billion. Like,
I'm not saying that this is what happened for this trip because they didn't know in advance that the Wolves were going to blow up in the fourth quarter. And to verify, yes, we are a pro Chris Hine podcast here on Flagrant Howls.
Yes.
But the owner of the Star Tribune also owning the Timberwolves. And again, it wasn't planned this way in advance, but it's actually advantageous in that situation that there was no further reporting from that locker room, because it takes something that could have spilled over in a really bad way, and like you guys said, allowed them to sort of get their story straight. Do you think, I think we all agree, and maybe there's another one or two we can sprinkle in, the vibes from Thursday spilling over is like our current least favorite Wolves thing, because it makes us all just feel dirty about everything so far. But now that we've all had a few days to think on it, do you think this is just a blip that is happening in November? Because Rudy is kind of hard to, like, it takes people a while to warm up to Rudy on the court, off the court. We saw it with certain players 2 years ago, and boy, thank God it happened in November, and now they can work the rest of the season on smoothing it out. Or do you feel like between Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, on court, off the court, by the way, Julius Randle can become a free agent after the season's over, so he's not maybe as long-term invested in making this work, which is just my speculation. Does this linger and stick the Wolves in the play-in or worse? Or, hey, it happened in November, now they can move past it and figure it out?
My fear is this is 2 years ago all over again. That's my fear, is that it's 2 years all over again, and they've gotten off to a slow start, and eventually, Rudy does this whole ridiculous thing where Ant tries to basically claps him, and I actually don't mind Ant trying to say, hey, we played harder, and I think he has the awareness to kind of get this group together, but there's too many familiar things to me from 2 years ago that's going to result, like Kyle's talking about, where someone's going to get punched in the middle of a timeout scuffle, and it's just going to be the culmination of just bad vibes all year, and that's what scares me the most, I think, about this start so far.
Dex is 100% right, and it's not pushback, I would build off that, is that the team that then went to the Western Conference Finals was all the same players that was in that 2 years ago thing. You know what I mean? So like Chris Finch, not Chris Hine. Chris Finch has figured out a way to, like, my children are fighting publicly. how do I regroup them and then pivot them towards one common goal? He's done that before, right? Like Kyle Anderson and Rudy fight, and then they help lead this team to the Western Conference Finals. So I think it's doable. But again, like maybe this, I've been pretty pro Chris Finch to you, Phil. This would be a good time for the coach to lead. Because, like, I don't know if you pull Rudy Gobert in that situation. It's really hard sometimes to do that stuff. It's all happening. I mean, I was enjoying a glass of wine. It's like, oh, they're going to win this game against Toronto. And it's like, wait, they're not going to win. And then they're fighting. Like, it all spiraled very quickly on Thursday night. So I don't know if it's going to linger all year, but I will say that this is another topic this is Anthony Edwards' team now. So, and they go as Anthony Edwards goes. And to your original point, we tried hard. That's on Anthony Edwards. Like, I don't really know how else to sugarcoat it. I love the kid. He's awesome. He's changed all of our lives. But, like, if you just come out lazy, like you kind of have, or like sleepy in some of these games, oh, it's a matinee. I've heard so many different times that don't work now for Ant to play basketball, and I'm wondering which ones do. Because, it's a matinee game. It's early. We came back from a road trip. It's like, you mean that your opponent, the Suns, have played 4 games on the road. Like, they're on the road. Like, what? I love that you're honest and transparent, but sometimes they don't make sense. And that's starting to boil over for, I think, a lot of people watching this team.
I think Kyle's right, though. I think that this now ends up on Chris Finch's plate. Like, it's Ant's team, and that's great, but there clearly needs to be an adult in the room right now, and there's only one, the coach. So, like, this is his, and it bothered me. It bothered me that he did nothing when Gobert walked out of the lane and purposely sabotaged his team tied. Like, that was ridiculous. That can't happen. I know he's mad, and Julius was being a baby himself, but all of that being said, Gobert basically decided, screw it, I'm going to make a statement here. You gotta, if you're the coach, you don't just, say this will work itself out. You do something, I think, immediately with
I'd
it.
love to, like, just kind of workshop a pie chart of vibes, like where the vibes are. Maybe this is a new part of State of the Wolves Monday, a pie chart of vibes. But, and it feels like this has been basically confirmed in the fallout, like the last 2 or 3 days. When I watched the play happen live, my first thought wasn't, oh, Julius Randle's going rogue and refusing to engage Gobert. My thought was, Rudy is going rogue. The Wolves have a set drawn up here, or an isolation situation with Julius Randle. And Rudy, as he does a handful of times a game, tries to sort of insert himself offensively. And in that particular situation, I do think you have to throw him the ball. He's got a 6-inch advantage on a dude who he's sealed off completely under the basket. All right, he's kind of going rogue here. Like, he's literally just derailing the play that we have drawn up, or the action we have drawn up. But, all right, he does have a dude sealed off. Like, I do think the right play was to throw him the basketball. But I also understand how, if you're one of his teammates, it's really frustrating that a guy with stones for hands calls for the ball as if he is prime Hakeem Olajuwon, ready to do or like Tim Duncan, ready to do his signature fadeaway bank shot. I think it just needs to be more defined, and maybe this is where Chris Finch comes in more. Like, Rudy, dude, you have to stop being incredulous if your teammates don't trust you to catch the basketball. And that's where, like, Julius Randle then spent the rest of the fourth quarter, instead of trying to win, proving that Rudy Gobert can't catch the basketball. So, like, Finch has to come in, and Anthony Edwards, to your guys' point, and he did clap Rudy in the moment, but everyone's kind of waiting for a 23-year-old who was a star on the Olympic team, who led his team to the Western Conference Finals. Everyone's kind of waiting for this to be his... Dude, it is your team now. Cat's gone. Are you mature enough? Do you have the stones to check your dudes in a way that's productive, like Kobe did, like Jordan did, and LeBron in some cases, right? And it's like we're still in a little bit of a weird transition period with Ant, where he's a great leader sometimes, but sometimes he's, like Kyle said, it's like, oh, we flew in late last night, it's a back-to-back, or oh, we're in Canada now, whatever. So, like, they're like, all 4 of those guys share some percentage of the pie chart of vibes blame for me.
Also in that Celtics game, I know we're focused on the Raptors game, the first play of the Celtics game was a Julius Randle post entry pass to Rudy Gobert. So a little trolling
to prove a
people
point, yeah.
like Judd and I. I just keep coming back to, well, and Dane said this pretty well too. In that moment, there's 9 seconds left on the shot clock when Rudy has Scotty Barnes pinned under the basket. It shouldn't even come down. Like, they should be talking about this behind the scenes of, if Rudy has a guy pinned, you throw it to him. And if Rudy has a guy pinned, Rudy, we don't give you the ball. Like, that is coaching, right? I can't say that Chris Finch is this awesome coach and then not be like, in these situations, this is like special teams. What happens in those situations? If Rudy has a guy under the basket in a game that there's been 72 free throws and Rudy's shooting 80%, maybe just throw him the basketball, right? But bigger picture, the thing that drove me the most crazy, because everyone's mad about everything, Rob Dillingham and Josh Minot and Luka Garza and Chris Finch and ownership and media, you three are like teammates, and Dex clicks record and you guys do your shows, and then you click unrecord and you're offline and you're friends, you're talking. It's the showing up of your teammates that was like the biggest like bleep you. Like, I was so mad at the moment because showing up your teammates on camera is like, I mean, that just makes you a loser. I don't really have like a better word for that. You're a loser if you do that. And I've never once seen you three like that disagree or don't like what someone said show the other person up. That is just being a bad teammate. Yeah. And that was the thing that like broke me on Thursday. It's like, you're being a bad teammate right now. And that's why Finn should have just pulled him.
Yeah. No, there's just
like,
so much.
Judd, have you ever showed up Dex on a camera? Like, I know you guys might disagree, but like, you're not going to be like, wow, you're an
well,
idiot.
After the coleslaw thing.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly.
It's
a bad example.
Speaking
He's
of
like,
press conferences.
I'm open. I'm like, I'm not throwing you that coleslaw ball.
An idiot. Okay, before we get to our favorite Wolves things here, a shout out to Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Score North Podcast. So Nicolay Law can't help your team chemistry on a basketball court, and they won't be able to decide if you should or shouldn't throw it to Rudy, but they can help if you or a loved one gets injured and you need someone to help you get the compensation you deserve after said incident. Russell Nicolay and his team, very much locally rooted here in the Twin Cities, and they're here for you if you have been injured. So get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers, nicolaylaw.com, or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. Judd, a couple weeks ago, I had a glorious dinner at Butcher and the Boar, we recommend that more people do as well.
Absolutely true. Yep. And now in a location in the North Loop, I want to talk to you about one thing in particular, because you got the brunch on weekends, gathering space for a great Southern style hospitality. But let me talk to you about Thursday nights, because Thursday nights, prime rib night. That's right. Prime rib night comes with a wedge salad, lobster mac and cheese fill, loaded baked potato, and an ice cream sundae. It's a huge meal, really, for two, served until they sell out. Take advantage. Prime rib, good prime rib is the best. Butcher and the Boar, again, North Loop location. If you're going to a Wolves game, right nearby, check them out. Food outstanding as always.
And then I guess you could just kind of go down the street to Element Hotel and just kind of roll into your food coma. Yeah. Element Hotel just down the street from Target Center and Target Field 2. It's a Marriott Bonvoy hotel right on the light rail, super walkable to some of the aforementioned great restaurants and popular bars in Minneapolis. Bright natural lighting throughout the entire place, but also great city views and skyline nighttime views. Just a great, great spot, Element Hotel, if you are looking for a fun night out after a Wolves game, or maybe you've got some family or friends in town. Maybe Kyle comes in from the West Coast, and we're going to make a trip all around that area. Element Hotel, just down the street from Target Center. ScoreNorth.com/element to find out more. ScoreNorth.com/element. Dex?
All right, favorite Wolves thing. So I will even say, I know we just talked about Anthony Edwards, maybe lacking some awareness and which ant shows up. My favorite Wolves thing, and maybe some naivete playing in here, but I think his awareness of this situation is legitimate, and I think he understands the gravity of it. And I actually have a lot of faith and trust that he is the dude to be the top wolf, pun intended, in that room to get everyone to buy back in and say, all right, we're 8-8. We're not dead in the water by any means. We're 4 games back in a loaded Western Conference. We can get ourselves out of here. I think he personally is the leader that has those capabilities to do that despite being still very young. The Olympic experience was big for him. So my favorite Wolves thing, despite, and I know it's kind of slim pickings right now when you're 8-8 and you've gotten off to a disappointing start, my favorite thing is I believe that Ant can get this team out of it. I have trust that he can do so.
Hey, real quick, some quotes about that from the Star Tribune in Boston before the Boston game. Julius Randle said Anthony Edwards was very vocal in the locker room after that whole incident in Toronto. He's not afraid to speak his mind, but he also has the weight to do so because he's a positive presence in many other moments. Quote from Julius Randle, Ant is super unselfish and lifts everybody up. He really genuinely wants the best for everybody. You notice, like, after I hit the game-winning shot against Phoenix, he's the first person to run up to me. When you lead with that type of pure-heartedness, you then have the right to be honest and call guys out on the other side, hold people accountable because you're backing it up with your actions. So the fact that Ant lit up a couple guys in Toronto, both on the court and behind the scenes, and Julius Randle is saying, yeah, and some of it might just be like, all right, let's put this fire out. But it does seem like Ant has the respect and credibility from key teammates and Chris Finch.
Ant should be as upset as Judd and I are then that the Star Tribune wasn't there on Thursday, because no one knows. And I just use my dad as a litmus test. No one knows that those quotes exist. Like no one, and if you don't have social media or like you know what I mean, like you would have woken up Friday and be like, oh, okay, so Ant did mother bleep everyone in the locker room and kind of correct this thing, and then they came out on Sunday and played hard. That would have been really good for Ant. No one knows. And it goes back to the media thing of just like, you know, if an ant chews out his teammates in the forest, but no one's around to hear it, like, did it happen? No one knows.
Yeah,
and,
it's, you know.
And the thing, too, is, so the Randall quotes are great. My bigger concern is actually Gobert, though, because he's a sort of a wild card, man. Like, it literally took them a year to get him into the system. And then it worked great. But I mean, I hate to think, okay, Cat's gone. It's now going to take another year. Like, that's a ridiculous thought. These are adults. Gobert's been playing this game a long time. So there's just a lot of things here. And look, Ant has great intentions, but he's still 23. And this comes back to where I think this is on Finch. Like, this is on Finch to either sit guys. Like, there have to be repercussions if you're going to be a baby. If you're going to sabotage your team, which is Finch's job, then there have to be repercussions that go beyond, we'll get this fixed. No, you got to show how you're going to fix it. That could have been a big statement.
Totally different subject here. I'll give you my favorite current Wolves thing. Rob Dillingham's 16 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Specifically second half. So Mike Conley's been out, and, you know, in his absence, Nikhil started a game or two, and then, you know, Dante DiVincenzo came in. They have guys who are capable of handling the ball, but they don't really have anyone other than Dillingham who is an actual ball handler behind Mike Conley. So for him to come in 16 minutes, get 10 shots off, 6 of 10, he's throwing floaters off the glass, knocking down huge three in the corner. That was the Rob Dillingham breakout game. It only took us, a month and a half or whatever, and 16 games. But, like, that game last night should show he needs 12 to 20 minutes every single night, with or without Mike Conley. Like, just put him out there, let him do his Rob Dillingham thing, even if maybe there's some bumps in the road. But he was awesome. It was fun to watch him rising up and proving to himself and the team, oh, yeah, I am a top 10 overall pick, actual NBA player. I can get buckets against the Boston Celtics on the road. That was awesome.
If you clip that take and post it on all your socials for Score North, you'll do crazy numbers because people love Rob. Now, Timberwolves TikTok has just become a Rob Dillingham highlight package. But you're totally right, because he has been very frustrated. He was like, you know, a lottery pick. He's wanted to play. Mike Conley has been great about coaching him up like, hey, dude, I also was a lottery pick, and I didn't play much, not even early in the rookie season, just like 20 games in, like, chill. He finally had an opportunity. It was kind of interesting to listen to the Celtics call because they're pretty homers, but they were both like, wow, who is this kid? He looks great. So I think Rob Dillingham has been a really big highlight. Another one for me, bias, Jane McDaniels, in his last 7 games, is averaging, I think, 13 points and 6 rebounds. He's had 5 games this year in 16 total games. He's had 5 times where he had 6 or more rebounds. Last year in 72 games, he did that 7 times.
Yeah, so like that should be every night. Go grab
100%, 100%. Like, I'm low bar here, but all the stuff 2 weeks ago, they're like, what is going on with this guy? He has not been an issue. He has played. I think his defense has picked up again, and he's getting rebounds for a team that all of a sudden really struggles at times to get rebounds if Rudy's not out there. So Rob and Jaden, I think, are 2 bright spots, along with what Deck said about Ant maybe embracing what is the current situation for the team.
Yep.
Here's mine. You got 4 consecutive home games starting tomorrow night. You've got the Rockets. You got the Spurs. You've got No, I'm sorry. Sacramento, the Clippers, the Lakers. You've got a chance here to get serious. You've got you're home for an extended period of time. It's time to put the BS garbage, behind you. It's time to actually start to look like a team. It's time to quit quibbling. If you get the ball, Gobert, that's great. If you don't, do not purposely take a 3-second call. This gives you an opportunity. This provides you a new starting point. So
what
you
if
know
the
what?
fans counted down from 3 every single time he entered the lane? Would that be helpful or harmful?
Oh, I'm sure he'd pout again. He'd start crying again. But anyway, you now are presented with an opportunity to start anew. You're what? You're 8-8 now. So it's certainly not, you're out of a playoff spot, but it's November. You're fine. But this gives you an opportunity to hit a reset and start to become a team. And this better not take months. Like we've been through that. So, and this starts with Chris Finch. I will challenge Chris Finch. This is on you, buddy boy, to get that room turned around. You are the head coach. I love Ant. I don't think it's necessarily fair though to be like he has to be the spokesperson. He's a kid. Let's get Chris Finch and this team on the right track. You're 8-8. You're absolutely fine if you start to take this seriously.
My favorite Wolves thing next week is going to be if Judd shows up to one of the pregame press conferences and actually addresses Chris Finch as Buddy Boy. That's what I want.
Buddy boy.
I'm like his age.
Hey, Buddy Boy.
We're born like 4
buddy boy.
days apart. I know Chris Finch. Okay? Get this thing straightened out.
You know what's crazy? Judd was born like 4 days apart from Chris Finch. I was born 5 days apart from Kevin O'Connell. We have like birthday alignments with two. What about Rocco? How old's Rocco?
Like 39.
He's in his 40s, right?
I think he's in his 40s now.
He's 40s. Okay.
I think Paul Deli's in his 40s now.
43.
But it's funny too,
43, yeah.
because you definitely trend much more towards O'Connell's personality, and I trend towards Finchie's.
Yeah, a little grizzled.
Yeah.
Enjoy
But
a
I'm going to tell
beer.
you right now, Gobert's out of that game. I would have given serious thought to benching his ass last night in Boston.
I will tell you too, for panic purposes,
DNPCD.
the Mavericks are only a half game better than the Wolves. Like the early part of the NBA
You're
season, even for teams that are established, is weird. And there's a bunch of examples too all throughout. Like, well, the Bucks have won a bunch of games in a row and they're back in the mix.
But to Judd's point, these next 4 games at home, 2 of them are NBA Cup games, and there might be no better way to consummate this new marriage. Going back to my original point,
I love where you're at with this.
than a trip to Las Vegas. Right?
Right.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Win a couple of these
Love
games.
Vegas.
They're pool play games. You lost that one, I think, to the Blazers, which is embarrassing. Then you beat the Kings. This week, Rockets game is a group play game. Clippers game, group play game. Make it to the quarterfinals of the Cup. Maybe get down to Las Vegas for a night or two. Consummate this thing, and let's try to get back to the Western Conference Finals.
You brought that full
dude.
circle perfectly.
I don't know how.
Let's make
It's
this
early.
happen. Let's hang that banner.
I got no flag.
Let's hang that banner.
Phil's got a towel somewhere for the Wolves.
I do.
Howl
I know
towel.
what I had it ready during the playoff
Get
run.
a howl towel.
I gotta go find it because it kind of I put it off to the
It
side.
brings the whole
after
thing
playoff
together
run.
very nicely when you do it.
I do have a stat of the week for you guys, and if anybody else has, I know we've been throwing stats out here, but Dante DiVincenzo, something, and maybe Dillingham can help unlock some of this, but going into Sunday, and in fairness to him, DiVincenzo was, I believe, 3 for 6 from downtown against the Celtics, so he's kind of getting back on track. But I thought this was fascinating. With the Knicks last year, he averaged 7 catch-and-shoot three-point attempts per game. Catch and shoot. And he hit 41% of those catch-and-shoots. He was, I mean, in terms of catch-and-shoot, he was one of the best in the NBA last year. Volume and percentage. Only one player averaged more catch-and-shoot attempts, three-point attempts last year than Dante DiVincenzo. This year, he's been averaging half as many catch-and-shoot three-point attempts per game, and he's only hitting 30% of them going into Boston. And so part of it, I think, is he's handling the ball more than maybe he should be, and so he's, his three-point attempts are coming in more pull-up situations or coming off screens. And then in the corner, last year he hit 45% of his corner threes. This year, only 21% of his corner threes. So some of it's just like he's not as locked in, but also get that dude some catching threes, and maybe having Dillingham play on ball and DiVincenzo playing off ball, or if Ant is initiating. I just want to see DiVincenzo put in a position where he can be 3-Vincenzo, can unlock it.
Yeah, I don't want him to start at point guard. Like that happened
Yeah.
yesterday, right? They tried Nikhil against the Blazers, switched it up yesterday. It has nothing to do with his skill set. I just want floor generals, as Jim Pete said a week ago, running the show, and guys who are more catch and shoot, run off curls. Like I think opening up Dante DiVincenzo and getting him kind of back would be really big for a lot of stuff, because they don't really have a lot of guys spreading the floor right now. Jaden's still shooting like sub 30s from the corner. So getting DiVincenzo back to 5 of 9, 6 of 10 from 3 is going to open up a lot of driving lanes. Maybe it'd open up more opportunities for Rudy to catch the ball in the post, but they got to find a way to get him back to what he was doing in New York and not have him playing backup point guard behind Mike.
Yeah. All right, boys. A little state of the Wolves. Kyle jumping in early morning on the West Coast.
More like disgruntlement about the Wolves, but that's very fair given the
They
recent
deserved it.
circumstances. I was going to say,
Yeah.
they don't deserve a lot of breaks from us right now.
No, but home games on the horizon. Come on, Wolves. Go get like 3 wins out of 4 at least, and get your butts going in the NBA Cup. So, all right, for Kyle, for the sports dad, for our producer extraordinaire Declan, this is Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.